developed by SimTech Solutions. In this video, we will cover how to register
working.
with Counting Us and how to join your community's count for this year. Counting Us can be downloaded on your mobile device via Google Play or the Apple App Store. Once you've downloaded the app, it's really simple to get registered and started counting. All you need to do is open up the app and click on the button that says Register. Once you've done this, you'll need to enter your first and last name, your email address, and your cell phone number. The cell phone number is very important as it will be used by count administrators on the day of the count to get in contact with you if they need to have you complete any additional information on your surveys. Then you create a password, confirm it, and submit your registration. Once you've registered for your account, you simply want to log in using the username and password you just created. Now you're ready to begin using Counting Us. On the first screen, you want to click Choose Count. Then you want to click Join New Count at the top. This is where you enter the setup key provided by your regional count administrator. If you don't know your community's setup key, or you just like to give the app a try, type in Demo and click Join Count. The regions will be used for the day of the count. For now, just go ahead and click.
So again, these are just demos, not our actual count stuff.
The next step is to click the Get Started button on your home screen. We can see on this screen that the count is in test mode by the yellow bar across the top. We can also see the surveys that are currently loaded into the app. These will change the closer we get to the count. At the bottom of the screen, you can see the menu options of Surveys, Drafts, Map, and Help. You might want to save a draft of a survey if you need to come back and finish it up later. Or if you're somewhere where you don't have good internet connection, you can save a draft and submit it when you're back on good Wi-Fi or mobile data. Additional surveys, resources, information, and training will be available as the time draws near for the Point in Time Count 2021. Thank you so much for joining us for this training today. If you have any questions, please reach out to pit@simtechsolutions.com.
So like I said, the training video they have is...
You ever wondered what actors...
Stupid YouTube. All right, so let me log back into this real quick, and then we'll show you kind of the surveys, what we're going to be looking at. So it's pretty straightforward for registering for the app. As you saw, you just go in, we put the count ID in the chat if you need to log in and register there. Right now, it's open in demo mode, so you can practice going through the surveys and submitting them, playing with the different features, and it won't count against our count, but it gets you time for familiarization.
Corey, I just wanted to let you know that I actually figured out how to show the actual app online. So you don't have to go through the command center. And it's just with the counting.us, you can actually go through and I can show the surveys that we have created for this year through the actual app.
Sure. If you want to bring it up, I'll talk to it.
Sure. Okay. Yes. And then this, and I will move. Can everyone share? And can everyone see that? Can people see the Counting Us screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, you disappeared when I started sharing my screen. So this is the Counting Us app. I'm already logged in as we watch that video. So you click Get Started, and I'm already in that ORBOS 2022. So after you create an account, it will ask you for that key code. And then this is what it will look like on your phone, and if you need to go on the computer as well. So let's just go through the sheltered homeless survey, or no, sorry, let's do unsheltered. Yeah. And it's pretty simple. It already knows your location.
Speaking of location though, The big thing to remember is if you're like out taking a bunch, save them as a draft, and you're going to finish them in the office or somewhere else, it'll move your map icon. So you'll need to make it go back to where you actually, the survey was taken.
So you can see down here, you can enter an exact address, or you can choose where you are. And then if for some reason the location messes up, your team lead who has access to the command center can go in and change the location as well. You would just need to note that. So the biggest thing is we don't want to double count people. So if you say yes, you're done. And then we ask sleeping location. So if you're out in a park, and then it breaks down into the personal information. So you can write.
Now, there's also a possibility that people do not want to share their information. And so you'll just collect what you can. If they don't want to give their name, ask them if maybe you can get some initials or something so we can just identify who they are. Try to make sure that every question's answered. If they don't want to answer it for some reason, you know, I think depending on the drop down, yeah, you have a refused or don't know. So we really need an answer for every question, even if it's refused or don't know.
And then you can select multiple ethnicities as well, or races. And again, if someone is saying, no, I don't want to answer this question, you have the option to refuse, but try and get as much as you can.
Yeah, because the big thing is not only is this data important for getting services and funding to help the homeless situation and try to improve things, but we need the data in order to, you know, vie for that funding and grants. And it can also show where we need to focus more of our attention as well.
Sorry, I'm just clicking through random ones right now.
So essentially, it's going to be, it seems kind of invasive because it goes over a lot of stuff. It goes into, you know, some of where they slept, how long they've been homeless. I believe there's some little more questions on maybe, I think there's some domestic violence thing, like are they fleeing from it or things like that. So there might be some uncomfortable questions you may have to ask, just a forewarning.
And then we did add a question this year around COVID-19. And so if they do say they're experiencing homelessness from COVID-19, there are drop down boxes to choose. But if they say no, then it's not there. And then same with natural disaster. So we have a lot of fire survivors out there. So that's in there as well. That's a weird fire / mud, but. And then these are some of the more invasive questions.
And the reason we ask these is because these could be barriers for people. And so by knowing if they have a barrier, it helps us find ways to overcome the barrier. But if we don't know they have a barrier, then it makes it more difficult.
And I can also create a PDF of this survey if you want to send out to your volunteers so they can have it beforehand so they know what questions they're going to be asked. So if you want that, let me know and I can send it out to the group. What region are you? I'm not sure. You'd have to tell me where you are. Sorry.
So we specifically are like Lincoln, CSC is Lincoln, Lynn and Benton counties are where we're doing our count. So if you're joining from outside of those counties, you're going to have another CAA that's going to do that, I believe. Am I right on that, Nora?
Sorry, someone was
There's
sending
another
me a
action
message.
agencies that'll be doing the other counties.
Yes.
Outside of ours. So if you're outside of Lynn, Benton, or Lincoln County, you'll want to get with whatever agency is overseeing that portion of the pit for your county.
Laura,
Yeah.
can you send out a list of what all the regions are
Yes.
to everybody, because I think if you haven't been with the ROCC for a long time, you don't even know that you're in a region.
So I'll send out a little packet, probably Monday, if I'm being honest. We have a lot of trainings this week, and it will have a PDF of the survey so people can review it. And then I'll also have a map of the ROCC, so it'll show what region you're in. Oh, sorry, someone's in the waiting room again. And then once you select your region, the region has like 4 to 5 counties. You'll select which county you are doing surveys in right now. And then you just hit submit survey. Okay. And like I said, this is still in test mode. So it won't actually count towards the count. And like one thing I really want to emphasize is if you have PIT data, but it's still in test mode, do not submit official PIT data, because when it's in this test mode, it doesn't actually get counted. So I will turn on the point in time count for the app. And I will tell all of your leads so they'll know, and it won't have this yellow bar at the top. And that's when you can start putting official data in there. And also on the flip side of that, don't put test data in when it's open, because then we'll have skewed results, or we'll have to go delete it.
So then there's also an observation survey for it. That's basically, and a lot of these are going to be based on your agency's direction on how they want to do things. It could be COVID related or however, but it's more about still getting the count, and it's still answering some of those questions, but it's doing it based off of your visual observation. So you're not actually talking to the individual. You're just like, oh, there's 4 people over on this corner. They are approximately blah, 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 whatever the details are you need to have in there. And then you'll just fill that out as the description of the individual. What do they dress like? Do you see a tent? Stuff like that. Because we're not going to have, if someone's sleeping, we don't want you going and like, hey, can you wake up to take this survey? Or vice, you know what I mean? And then again, you can always do drafts and go on from there. Yeah, so I believe, Nora, we're opening up the count. I think it's like 10 days before, right?
Yeah, so it'll be, oh gosh, off the top of my head. It'll probably be on the 19th, so in 2 weeks. Oh no, that's not 10 days. It'll probably be the 17th.
So what were you looking at, opening the app up on the 17th?
10 days before the count.
You can start counting.
It's the last 10 days in January, so wouldn't it be closer to the 20th or 21st?
Well, the count is the 26th, I thought, officially.
Officially,
Yes.
yes, but we can actually count people the last 10 days of January, not 10 days prior to our
Yes.
official.
Okay, so it'll be the 21st.
Right. And there will be people counting after the 26th, so don't cut it off early.
Oh yeah, so I'm going to talk with all the leads and keep. Caleb said that we usually kept it open like a week after, and then sometimes if it's a week, 10 days after, and then you found like a written survey that you didn't put in there, I can always open it back up for folks as well.
Right, but people should understand you really need to do your official counting by the end of January. HUD does not want us counting people in February. Submitting applications is one thing, but you don't hold a resource event and count people in February is what I'm trying to say.
Gotcha.
I'm so happy to have experts on the call. This is my first year with PIT at all, so I'm still learning as everyone else is. Oh, and so this one I did household. for the observation so that you just go through each member of the household that you see. And unless you guys have some more questions on that, I will probably just save that as a draft.
I mean, that's really pretty much the nuts and bolts of just the Counting Us app and what most volunteers are going to be doing. Is there any more questions or anything you want more fleshed out?
And for the folks that have sent me messages in the chat, I will review them. And since I'm recording, it downloads all of the comments and the emails. So I will send that out to everyone. And please, again, if you haven't put your email in the chat, please do that so we can track who was on the call today. And we do our next training for the Counting Us app is on Tuesday, the 11th at 1 p.m.
Hey, Nora, this is Melissa.
Mm-hmm.
I want to just chime in with a quick comment about the sampling piece. For the areas that are participating in the sampling, we're still working with the developer to get the map finalized. And so once we have that, there will be more directions on the areas that we're surveying and that everyone is surveying to be part of the sampling. And so the volunteers will be doing the same thing. We'll just all have defined geographic areas. So that is to follow. Hopefully by the end of
me, it will be here by the end of today, but we will see.
Yes, Nora has been really on it, trying to get the developers to address our glitch, and they are working on it. So that's in progress.
Also in the chat, I'm going to put in the CSC pit count email for you guys in case you need to email anybody about it or email us directly.
Awesome. And I'll throw my email in there again if folks have questions and if you missed my email before.
So that's the.
I say, should we open the floor for questions then? Folks want to chime
By
in
all
with any
means.
questions?
I think you're on, and then make sure if you're going to ask questions, you're not on mute. Questions? No questions?
I have one, and it's not a real question because I'm sure somebody at the office will fill me in. But so the code that we put into the app, that's something that Nora, you're going to put in a PDF form and email us.
Yes. So you won't have to remember it from just this chat. It will be widely available.
Please don't do that. All right, cool.
Hey, Corey, can I make a couple comments?
By all means.
So as like Justina, as someone who's done this for many years, I just had a couple things that I think are important to remember is, as Corey mentioned, some of the questions are a little personal, obviously. We're asking about people's health and disabilities and other things that might be considered confidential in a normal setting. But please instruct your volunteers and whoever else you may be training not to skip those over out of embarrassment or convenience or just to get through the survey faster, because all of that data is very, very valuable to your communities and your elected officials and your funders. So it's, if people want to refuse, that's their right and that's fine. But don't skip it out of, some other reason. Give people the opportunity, because if they do want to volunteer that information, it's very good to have. And the other thing is you probably might have seen really quick, there's a sheltered version of the survey as well. That's for people who are living in shelters, but whose shelter does not enter their guests into service point. So many of you may be living in areas where you have shelters that count people that night, but they don't put their people into the service point database. So that is a survey they need to be using. So make sure they understand that. If you have a shelter that already uses Service Point, they don't need to put people into this survey. But another thing to remind your volunteers, because this happened to us at CSE, if they're, let's say they're at a meal site or somewhere where, you know, homeless folks frequent and they're looking to interview people, they should ask them up front if they're staying in a shelter, because if they are, they really should not be interviewing them. They should be leaving that to the shelter staff to do, because what will happen is those people will end up getting surveyed twice. So for those that are just doing, you know, regular volunteer work, just stick with the unsheltered, but make sure people really are unsheltered. Ask them if they're sleeping at a shelter first, because if they are, they should be counted by the shelter staff.
And one more point on that, I will be sending an email probably tomorrow to the pit leads asking if you have volunteers or organizations that are shelters that don't put their data in Service Point, to give that information to me so I can put it into the command center background. So when if they're doing a sheltered homeless count, they can select their organization.
And I know it goes without saying, and I'm pretty sure it asked at the survey, but also make sure when as you're asking people if they're in a shelter, also make sure they haven't been surveyed already as well.
Beth, I thought I saw your hand go up. Do you have a question?
I don't, but it just occurred to me, and I'm not sure how much outreach has been done, but it just occurred to me that we have a new director of our DV program here in Curry. I just messaged her to see if she's planning on participating. I don't think they're operating their shelter yet, but they may have folks in motels, in motel rooms. So I'm going to try to pull her in and bring her on board with this process. So I just wanted to clarify what was just said, just for my own peace of mind. This is an example where, you know, a provider's operating, let's say a winter non-congregate shelter, and that is not information that's being entered into HMIS directly. So that's on us to make sure that we get those folks entered through Counting Us.
Yes.
Okay.
I think there's also a paper survey if they would rather do that. But the sheltered homeless survey would be through the app if they're not in HMIS. Right, Justina? I want to confirm. Our expert.
Yes, they can do either the paper form and then somebody needs to put them in, or they can use the app.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll use the app. We used it not last year, year before. Amazing. So much easier for everyone, especially our community action agency, to be able to use that app. So thanks.
Madeline, I just saw your question. We as the ROCC don't have those resources, but the organizations that you're working with in your county might have those resources or brochures to hand out. That's usually right in the Night of the Pit. You usually have brochures, food, etc. to hand out. Awesome, thank you.
Melissa has a question.
Yes, I wanted to remind us about that miracle question piece. There is a question in the survey that's about reunification, where you ask the individual if they have anyone that they would like to get in touch with. And the app folks work with a nonprofit in San Francisco that has made some successful reunifications. So I just want to call folks' attention to that, because I think that's great. Thank you.
And there's the link to the miracle messages.
Any other questions before we end the meeting? I will send a packet out with all the things that we discussed today. And like I said, if you have any questions or concerns, just send me an email. And if I can't answer them, I can usually find someone who can.
Yeah, I would have questions, but I don't know enough about it yet to ask questions. So
Yeah.
you guys are doing a good job.
Like I said, the Counting Us app itself is pretty easy and quick to understand, and going through the survey is not very time intensive as far as training goes. But the command center for any individuals that will be joining for that type of training, it's a little more in depth, and there's a lot more features and stuff that get involved in. So.
Oh, also in that packet, I will include, I have a calendar of all of the trainings that we have. So you can send that out as well. And they all have links to the Zoom link as well. So it should be pretty simple to hand out or to email to folks.
Nora, check your email. I sent you a document that came out several years ago with the Counting Us app, and it does have the code that's needed and some downloading instructions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Justina.
You're welcome.
I just sent that same one to her.
Scott, we think alike.
Killing it, Scott.
It's so wild. You would think that like the app developers would have a pamphlet for us or something. It's like, hey, this is everything that you need. But it's usually just like, you've done this before. You got it.
Well, that document they did send us out at the beginning. So.
Okay, folks, I gave you my email. I gave you time to ask questions.
All right.
Corey, thank you so much. I really appreciate you helping me with this. And I want to thank everyone for hopping on this call and for being amazing volunteers with the pit.
Thank you all.
Yeah,
Thanks,
you
guys.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.